Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to class. Happy Friday to everyone. As you know, today is a day when we would release, I would release the midterm exam, and everybody is coming on board. We are not going to be doing any warm-up question for the day today, but let me ask you now while you're here to just take one good deep breath collectively. Let's do that. I think that helps a little bit. We can do it one more time, I guess. All right. So what we will do today is I will kind of be available to answer questions, introduce the prompt, and let you to work on the exam. We do not need to use the full hour. We will use the time that we need. Otherwise, I will let you work on the exam, and you can start working on it during this time as well. There is a 24-hour time that you have, and it doesn't mean you will use all of those 24 hours, but you would use the time that you would need. If you are well prepared, it should not take more than a couple of hours. So your day should be just like any other day, and I don't want people to be having trouble uploading and things like that, and that's what the 24-hour period is given for. So what I will do now is share my screen and walk through the exam. And give a chance for people to ask questions if they have any. Before I do that, let me tell you a couple things. First, congratulations on making it this far. This is not the usual way we do things, and you have done extremely well. You have, kept your pace, followed along the class, and did the best you could do when things are done remotely. So I would be thinking about all of you. I care about you. And so, there's somebody rooting for you. And I know that you will do well. If you have prepared yourself well, you will do well in the exam. Okay. So I just wanted to tell you that first before we get to start looking at the exam questions. The exam questions are uploaded on Blackboard as they should, and it is just released now at 9:10. But I'm going to be sharing my screen and walk through the exam prompt, and you will get a chance to read through it. I will say a few things every now and then, and basically what this would be a chance for you to ask questions about the exam itself. So let me do that and see if I can get to my PDF file. Here it is. Share this. Okay, you can all see this. I think it is large enough. Okay, so the first page has got a few instructions, right? So it doesn't hurt to read them through before you get started. This is going to be something that you would type up. I think that will probably be your best way to get this one, and I don't want you to forget to write your name. And so start by having your name and your WSU ID number at the top. And you will make sure that this document that I will be going through now has got 4 pages to it. This has got just the first page, and then the questions actually would begin on the second page. There are 12 questions in this exam. So let me maybe try to remind you what I am also trying to get other than assessing you. This is open book. This is take home. And I have tried to make the exam cover as much of the topics we have covered as possible. You have a number of other things that you've done. You've got your 5 assignments that you did. You've got your project that takes even more weight. And so this is only 20. Hello? Was anybody asking a question? Okay, so this is a time for you to read through the material, and that's why you have relatively many questions. But they should not be too difficult for you to cover. And the questions, some of them have got parts to them, and make sure that you read through them before you start writing anything. The points would add up to 100, and so each one of them will tell you how many points there is. There is 2 ways you could do this. You could, if there was anyone who would really like to write things by hand, you can. And if you do that, scan or take a picture and create a PDF. But I think you would benefit if you actually type. I think it would take you longer if you were to handwrite this. The deadline for this one to submit is exactly the time that we would have met 24 hours from now by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't wait until that time. Take the time that you need today, the moment you get a chance, including the time you have now, uninterrupted to work on it. And once you have it ready and you are happy with it, submit. Don't wait until the last time. This is just to give people a chance to find a time that would work the best for them. And I don't want to be making it a race against time. It is more of your knowledge of it and your description of it that matters more. And so don't be, delaying it unnecessarily. When you are done, submit. And the sooner you do it, the better. It will be off of your hand and you can move on with other things. The last point is just a reminder. This is a take-home exam. It's open book, but this is not a point where you would start to look up things. You would want to do things from your own memory, but if there is something that you forgot, there isn't anything. It is an open book. It is take-home, but I would still expect people to work on their own and to do only their thing. And so what you submit is your work and nothing else. And so there is the WSU standard of conduct that still is valid. And I wanted to remind you and to point you to where it is in the syllabus. Okay, these are the instructions. So we've gone through them. For the questions, they start from one. I'm going to not be reading one by one because that will be too much of a time, but you can read along depending on what you prefer. You can look at the screen now. I think it is large enough, or you can open on Blackboard and read there. So we'll walk through this anyway, but let me also tell you what I want to accomplish. I don't want to take too much time, but I would rather be available for someone who reads through this, and then there may be a question that is not very clear. There may be a question about interpretation. And so I would be on Zoom, and you can ask on the chat or something like that if it is a clarification question. Let's say you start, we walk through this, you understood, and you are working on the exam, and there is still a question you have. I do not want that to happen, but if it ever happens, you can email me. And when you email, you could say, tell me that this is about clarification on the exam question, and I will try to respond. But I am tied up. There is an exam I have to take with students, and I have meetings and other things that I have to do. So it doesn't mean I would be available to answer your question. So I don't expect anybody to have any trouble understanding what the question is about. Suppose after we walk through this, you still have something that is not very clear to you. State your assumption and answer the question the way you have interpreted it. That's also possible. So you don't have to wait for me. But I think the time we will have now should be enough. So the first question asks you, there is a 6th grade student that comes to you and tells you they want to be a data scientist. Define to that young student what data science is, and then give the student your best advice to what kind of student they should be in high school and what major they should aim for in college to be successful in her wish, this particular student that has asked you. That's question number one. I don't have any problem anybody understanding this question. And then the next one asks you about skills that you think what data scientists need, and elaborate on this one. Question number 3 talks about EDA. I think it should be obvious. You can read through it, and if you have questions, you can ask me. And now you can begin to see when I have multiple questions, what it means. So question number 3 has got 9 points to it. It has got 3 parts, A, B, C. Each one of them carries 3 points. The next question is about tidy data. It has got 2 parts, and it adds up to 8. Question number 5 is a place where you would have to draw, and you could, here is a place where I would be perfectly okay if someone, even though they are typing up, they would do things because you don't want to spend too much time doing something using whatever software you want to do, Word or anything like that. If you hand draw it and take a picture and include it in your document, that should be perfectly okay. So a schematic description of the data science process. And if you explanation is needed, you can, but the diagram itself should be something that be okay. You don't have to elaborate too much on it, but you can if you like. The next question, question number 6, has got 2 parts, and it is about machine learning overview, and it has got very clear statements, and you can read through it and try to answer. Question number 7 would want you to go back and reflect on the 5 assignments you did in this class, including the last one that is being graded now. And there are 2 things, specific things I've asked you. First, you would list for each of the assignments the themes or the topics the assignment covered. I would rather have this one in complete sentence, 1 or 2, or if you wanted to have some other way to say it, that should be okay. And then you will describe the most important thing, and some of you may have more than one thing to tell me that you learned from. This will be done for each assignment. You could format this any way you wish. If you want to make it more like a table, and you've got assignment 1, and then you've got the 2 things listed, assignment 2, the 2 things listed, that's fine. Or you can take 1 assignment and then talk about these 2 points and then go to the next assignment. Format is not important, but I would care very much about what you have to say on this point. Question number 8, change flavor. This is a place where you would sit down and think, and you have a description. I don't want to read it now. And it has got 2 parts. The first part asks you to identify which statement is true for the condition that is described there. And you would tell me why. Think through it carefully, and then you would answer the question. The second part is a true-false question, and you would answer it and justify your answer. They changed flavor. This becomes a place where you would actually have to think through and apply knowledge you have before. Question number 9 has got 2 parts to it. It asks you about the k-nearest neighbor algorithm and tell me how it works. There is no space here. If it was a written exam in a classroom, I would have given you a full page to describe this, but you now decide how much you want to tell me. You could use example, you could use figures, you could describe the whole process, and that's what I am asking for in part A of the question. In part B, you will have to think through. You will have to think through a particular problem that I'm suggesting, filtering spam, and you will tell me whether k-nearest neighbor would be, you would explain why k-nearest neighbors would be a poor choice for it, and explain why naive Bayes would do a better alternative. That was question number 9. Question number 10 has got 2 parts to it, and it is about K cross validation. I said implemented. What I mean by that is how it works. Tell me how it works. Explain the workings of K-fold cross validation. The second part asks you specifically about the advantages and disadvantages of K-fold cross validation relative to leave out one cross validation. Question number 11 would require you to explain things, and for this particular setting, how decision trees work. And so there are 2 figures here. There's one part of the question that refers to the figure on the left, and the other part of the question refers to the figure on the right. And so in the first part, you are going to use this space and turn it into a decision tree. And what the x1, x2 space is telling is described there. And on the right part, the second part of the question asks you to do the converse of this one. So you've got in a decision tree, now you're going to create a space. So think of them as something that in one case is asking you for having the tree version of it. And the second question is asking you, given the tree, to have that partitioning. Think about it carefully and answer it. Question number 12 is about PCA. This one is a true and false, and there are 7 parts in it, and it carries 14 points, and there are 7. That means each one of them carries 2 points, and your answer will be a true or false. If it is a false, you would justify it. If it's a true, you don't need to do anything. So as I said, for a well-prepared student, this should not take more than 2 hours. I would encourage you to use the time uninterrupted and have the space you need, and make sure that you do the time which best suits you, including the time you have now. If you are interrupted or you have to come back and do, that's perfectly okay. This is not a timed exam. As long as you submit before the deadline, you are fine, and do your very best. And this is essentially my walkthrough, and you will get a chance to read them, and I would be available. But let me see if there is some general question. You can unmute yourself and ask, or you could put things in chat. I can stop sharing, or I can keep it. It's probably okay to keep it, maybe if the question comes in relevant too. So let me see if there is anything in chat. I'm trying to get my mouse to go over to the. Will you be posting this recording? Yes, I would post it until you submit, and I don't think there is any big value in having this for a very long time. After the exam is submitted tomorrow, that is, I'll probably take it off. Other things I would like to keep, but this is an exam, so maybe I don't think it has got any value other than having you successfully submit your solution. So it will be, I will post it when Zoom makes it available. I'll let you know. In question 7, part 2, do we describe an important thing for every? Yes, it will be an important thing for every assignment. Assignment 1, you have the 2 things to say. Assignment 2, you've got the 2 things to say for every single one of them. And take your time to give me a good answer on that one. So Ayush, the question is, you would do this for every single assignment? Any other question? Yes, the exam is already on Blackboard, and you have a way to submit it. The submission would open at 9:30, but the exam is on Blackboard. In fact, let me see if you could go there and make sure that you have it. So I've posted it two places. There is a folder I created called Midterm Exam, and the PDF is there. And then just like this will be called technically an assignment on Blackboard for us to be able to, for you to be able to submit and for me to be able to grade. And so it is there too. Thanks, Brit. So you'll have it twice, but for now, for what you want to immediately go through, the one that is not the assignment, the thing that is called midterm, and would be a place to go and get it. No, you do not need to copy and paste the questions into the response. If you give me the response, your document should be just your response. Question number 1, you give me your answer. Question number 2, you give me your answer, and you keep on doing that. Yeah, so when I ask you definitions and examples, I would prefer examples to be your own. For definitions, you don't have to struggle to find a new way to define things, but resist the temptation to go back and pull out something from there and tell me again. You can, if you like, but I would prefer if you do take it your own ones. But if your way of defining it becomes very similar to how things are defined in my slides or in in any place you would look up, I wouldn't mind about that. But when it is examples, I would prefer that you give me your own example. Yes, so that's what I meant, Noor. That's what I meant. The 9:30 at 9:30 today, the submission link will be open. I don't expect anyone to be wanting to submit this one before 9:30. So that's the time we set it up. As soon as you're ready, you submit. The link should be open at 9:30. So let me give you another 5 minutes or so to think about, because some if you have questions, they will only come after you read them. So a good use of your time now, rather than trying to answer them, would be to make sure that you read through them. And this is one of the good things that happens, when we're doing remotely. And the way I chose to do it, to give you enough time to work on it, is to read through the questions carefully. And so if there is anything that a good way of using my time and your time now might be to read through them, and it may take some time for you to read through. So I will be okay to wait. Yes, if you prefer to handwrite all of the solutions for all of the problems, you can, and make sure that you write legibly, and then you could either scan or take every single one of them, take pictures, whichever way you want. As long as you get me a PDF, I'm fine. One of the advantages of having to maybe type would be you can improve, or something you can come back instead of erasing things. So it would probably be faster. It depends on you. As far as I'm concerned, they're equally fine. Typing, you may prefer to do that. So I don't quite understand. There is a question that came: how many differences are expecting us to write? What difference do you mean? So there's a question that I didn't understand. Well, so it's not really a list of differences. Can you specify which question you're referring to? I want a good, nice, succinct definition of what supervised learning is, what unsupervised learning is, and that should make it clear what the distinction is. It's not about a number. Yeah, I'm referring to question 6A also. So when you define what supervised machine learning is, what unsupervised machine learning is, the difference should come out clearly. And if you need to spell out differences with more concrete statements, that will be fine. So I'm not looking for a number on how many different ways you can tell me the difference. In fact, you may not need too many of them. Okay, So there's a question on 8b. That was actually a good question. It's referring to the interaction term. So the term that corresponds to x4, that's beta 4. I could have been clearer there. Thanks, Chris, for asking that question. It's referring to beta 4. It sounds like there isn't any question, so I'm going to stop here. Good luck. And if by any chance any question comes, you can email me. Make sure that you have in the subject that this is about the exam and it is a clarification question. All right. Good luck, everybody. See you next week.